Hello everyone, welcome to Gearpool. I'm Shane, and today, for the first time, I'm going to be giving the details of the history behind the Chevrolet Corvette. Before I begin, make sure to subscribe and like the video if you would like to see more of this type of content. To begin talking about the Chevrolet Corvette and the history behind it, we must go back to January of 1953. At this time, GM first unveiled their concept for a dream car. This car, which later became the Corvette, was designed to be the first American sports car. It would compete with big names in Europe. Fast forward to June of 1953, and the first Chevrolet Corvette came off the assembly line. This started the first generation of Corvette, called the C1. This car was sleek, curvy, and new for America. Under the hood of this car was an inline-six with 150 horsepower. This was America's sports car. It was an open-air coupe made for weekends and living the American dream. This was only the beginning for the Corvette, though. The 1953 and 54 Corvette sold very poorly. GM was asking too much money for too little performance with its 150 horsepower. Luckily for GM, Zora Arkus Duntov joined the Corvette team, and in 1955 the inline-six with 150 horsepower was replaced with a V8 that put out 195 horsepower. Zora also pushed for the car to come in a manual transmission option, so in 1955 the 3-speed manual option was added to the Corvette's transmissions. This was only the beginning of the changes made to the Corvette. In 1957, a 4-speed manual and fuel injection was added to the Corvette, and in 1958, the Corvette got dual headlights until the end of the C1 in 1963. The 1963 Corvette was revolutionary for Corvette. It was the second generation of Corvette, the first huge change made to the car. This new car was faster and it looked the part, especially with its pop-out headlights. The 1963 Corvette was the first year of the Corvette Stingray, and technically the first year of the Corvette Z06, a major performance car. The new Corvette came with a bigger V8 that was rated at 425 horsepower. That is a huge jump from the previous generation of Corvette. After 1964, no major changes were made to the second generation of Corvette. In 1968, however, the Corvette assembly moved on to building the C3 Corvette. This car was a new level of performance with aerodynamics, a new V8 engine, and in 1969 the first ZR1 was created. The C3 Corvette was the longest running and best selling Corvette so far, with GM producing the 250,000th Corvette and 500,000th Corvette during the C3's run. 1982 was the last year of the C3 Corvette, but the new generation of the Corvette, the C4 Corvette, didn't start production until 1984, which means that technically 1983 was the only year between 1953 and 2020 without Corvette production. When 1984 did roll around, however, the C4 Corvette was more than ready to take the road. The C4 Corvette was 24% more aerodynamic than the C3 and had a top speed of 150 miles per hour. In 1985, the Corvette added a 5.7-liter V8 with 230 horsepower. In 1990, the new Corvette ZR1 came out with a 5.7-liter V8 that had 300 horsepower. The engine in this car was so good that it received the LT1 designation, which is a high-performance badge. In 1992, the 1,000,000th Corvette was built, a white convertible with a red interior to match the original 1953 Corvette. In 1996, the Corvette Grand Sport was the first created, and it was a special edition package with only 1,000 made. 1996 ended the C4's production. In 1997, the C5 Corvette came out, with a sleeker, more aerodynamic body than the previous generation. The new LS1 V8 in the Corvette had 348 horsepower. In 2001, Corvette released the C5 Z06, which had a V8 that put out 385 horsepower. It had a top speed of 170 miles per hour. The 2002 Corvette added more horsepower to the Z06, making the number 405 horsepower. In 2003, a 50th anniversary special edition of the Corvette was released, with red paint, a two-tone interior, and special badges. 2005 ended the production of the C5 Corvette, which meant it was time for the C6 Corvette to roll out. This car had a new design, and for the first time since 1962, the 2005 Corvette had integrated headlights. No more pop-outs, just turn on the bulbs and go. Speaking of go, the 2005 Corvette had a 6.0-liter V8 that had 400 horsepower. In 2006, the Corvette Z06 returned with a 7.0-liter V8 that had 505 horsepower. This car was the first to come out with a 6-speed automatic option with paddle shifters. In 2009, the Corvette ZR1 came out with a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 that pushed out 638 horsepower and had a top speed of 203 miles per hour. The C6 production ceased in February of 2013. Replacing the C6 in 2014 was the C7 Corvette. This new Corvette was badged as a Stingray for the base model, which is the first Stingray since 1982. The Corvette Stingray had a LT1 V8 with 460 horsepower, the fastest base Corvette at the time. In 2014, the C7 Corvette Z06 came out with a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 with 650 horsepower. This engine was also put in the Camaro ZL1. In 2019, the new Corvette ZR1 was released, with a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 that has an insane gut-wrenching 755 horsepower, a 0 to 60 time of 2.85 seconds, and a top speed of 212 miles per hour. This car was the fastest, most expensive Corvette at the time of release. This Corvette broke the boundary of performance by competing directly with big supercar names in Europe, not unlike a previous Corvette mentioned. The C7 Corvette was ended in 2019, leaving the world expectant for what was next for Corvette. The 2019 Corvette ZR1 was an insanely fast car, and certainly the highest performance of any Corvette. With no real options left to turn to, the C8 Corvette was announced in July of 2019 to be the first ever mid-engined Corvette. Up to this point, the Corvette had pushed the confines of the front-engine rear-wheel drive format, but the new C8 Corvette was announced to change that completely by putting the engine behind the driver, allowing the base 2020 Corvette Stingray to have 495 horsepower and a 0-60 time of 2.8 seconds, making it directly compete with supercars that are 3 times the price of the $60,000 car. We have reached the end of the history of the Chevrolet Corvette. In 1953, the first Corvette rolled onto the market with the goal of being the first American sports car to compete with the big names in Europe. In 2019, the Corvette ZR1 did just that. It broke the boundaries of what an American sports car could do by placing its performance next to European supercars. The 2020 Corvette hopes to continue to compete with these supercars by taking advantage of a mid-engine layout. What the future of Corvette holds, only time can tell. I hope you enjoyed this car history video. If you did, be sure to subscribe and like the video. And if you didn't like it, let me know what I can do better in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.